Hey guys, Jessica here. So today let's talk about a pump that is circulating on TikTok, and that is your Clean Ounces pump. So this one is a social media phenomenon. It looks a lot like the flanges that we see on the Limerick, which has gotten a lot of attention here lately. It was featured on the Be My Best Friend channel over on Instagram, and that got a lot of attention for that pump. I actually love the Limerick flanges. So this looks very similar. You have this soft, flexible silicone, and you've got this hard plastic shell, which is very similar to what we see on the Limerick, but this is not the same technology. So what this is a 24 millimeter silicone flange. You can see the whole thing is completely silicone. And then let me see if I can turn this on and get this going so you can actually see what happens because it does collapse. Let me get that plugged. So it's hard to see, but right in this area here, it is collapsing. See if we can plug it without that insert. No, there's no way to do that because it's a 24 millimeter flange. So inside of this flange, however, is a design feature that we do need to talk about. It does have these little lumps and bumps. You can actually see them as those little like sunburst rays. That is not super comfortable. I do not like that. But we were able to find that the Nursey Luna insert set that's sold on Amazon, the pink ones, not the clear ones. If you're using a clear insert, it's too stiff and it doesn't allow the normal movement of the flange. And if this flange is not moving, then there's nothing at all appealing about this pump. So what this pump is it's a single-sided motorized hand pump style. So instead of having to manually crank it, you do have this motor up on top. This thing is heavy. This whole setup that you really do need, and you do need the bottle thing on the bottom because if there is anything, this part is so heavy and so poorly balanced that you actually are at risk of tipping this whole thing over. And that would not be good because then you just did all the work to pump and you just lost your milk. So you do want to have this thing on the bottom. But this thing is almost 12 ounces. It's 11.8 ounces. It is really heavy, and because it is lopsided, it is really not the easiest to hold. When you go to hold this, you're actually going to want to hold it here to stabilize it against the breast, but that's going to cause a little bit of hand fatigue. This is also a single-sided pump. It is not going to be faster. Like when we use a hand pump, we are typically able to empty faster because we can learn what our body needs. We can change the rhythm. We can kind of work with it. We also have that ability to kind of hold the handle down, which does allow us to pump a little bit faster by draining the milk during the letdown and speeding up that process. You don't have that with here. This is going to perform like a standard conventional pump. In terms of settings, you do have 3 different modes. Mode 1 is what I would refer to as like a gentle mode. It's faster, it's lighter suction, it feels more fluttery. Mode 2 is more, it actually reminded me of the Baby Buddha. It's longer, stronger pulls. It slows down faster and it has a sustained feel to it, which combined with that collapsing action in the flange is actually very, very nice. It's probably going to be very effective when people use it. The issue here is not the effectiveness, it's going to be the practicality. And then you have that third mode, which is a mixed mode, and it was 3 to 4 short pulls with 1 long pull. This pump starts at 124 cycles per minute and 30 mmHg and goes all the way to 30 cycles per minute is the slowest I calculated, and 326 mmHg. So really wide suction range. If this suction range was found in a, like if this motor was not attached here, and we had a pump that double pumped and performed like this, I actually would think it would be very, very successful. I think the issue here is the use of this style motor is just not very practical. So the issue here is that it's going to be really hard to hold up. You're going to have to pump each breast separately. I don't expect that it's going to be any faster. I mean, we might be able, because you're going to use hands-on pumping, we might be able to empty the breast if you are exclusively pumping in 20, 25 minutes. But that's a long time to hold this. Holding this, I had to hold it up to do the testing, and that took about 19 minutes when I calculated it. My hand was tired. It was not fun to have to stand there and hold it because this is just not the most stable structure that I've ever dealt with. Now, we also have no ability to change this flange out. So this flange does come off, but this is a proprietary kind of link up. I'm actually really hopeful. So this pump appears to be made by Horizon. Horizon is the same manufacturer that we see with pumpables. They're doing the Zomi Fit. I think they are actually doing the new Zomi Z2s. I can't prove that. That may still be NCVI, but I suspect based on some minor changes that I've seen that they may have switched over to Horizon, which NCV and Horizon, both great manufacturers. I think Horizon actually has a lot more innovation coming in with their new flanges. This is a variation of the Pumpables liquid flanges. So we've got that collapsing action. The difference is that Pumpables liquid flanges use the technology where the silicone insert and the duckbill are combined into one long unit that collapses. This is just using thin bands of silicone that change in the consistency to allow this to collapse. It's a thin silicone. If there's an air seal, it's going to naturally collapse, which means that there is a potential that we could see other pump companies use this kind of technology. Because I don't think clean ounces is all that new and innovative. I think the practicality issue here is going to limit this pump. This is going to be great for somebody who needs to pump off pressure on one side. Say you're super, super engorged. We're dealing with like hyperlactation. Sometimes we don't have the option to just let the milk sit because then we'll end up with mastitis. If you are nursing one side and just need to relieve pressure on the other, this could be great. If I was using this for the 3 to 5 minutes that it takes to alleviate that pressure, get that first let down, and help with that engorgement pain, this could be really practical because it's also going to be less to clean because it's one set of flanges. It's very portable. It's not super loud. It's very practical for that use case. But the number of pumping moms I have with that use case is really, really low. Most of my moms are trying to double pump to build a stash for when they go back to work or if they're separated from their baby, or even just because moms really do like the comfort of a freezer stash. So all in all, the Clean Ounces is not a bad pump. I actually don't hate it. I don't think it's fair to compare it to Limerick. This is a traditional suction pump. It's a pull and release. Limerick is entirely different technology and is one of the top pumps on the market. Limerick is combining their standalone technology, which is not the same as Pumpables liquid flanges. It does have that same kind of collapsing action, but it's combining a low-grade constant suction to hold the breast to allow you to use a one-size flange. This is not a one-size-fits-all flange. If you use this in a 24, you're going to irritate the nipple with those bumps, and you are going to do damage to your nipple. So you are going to have to use this with inserts. Like I said, we were able to find that the Nursey Luna inserts did allow us to use it, which meant that's better than no ability to use this. If you've already purchased this, I do think for the price point, you're not necessarily getting a good value. I think a hand pump would actually be a better value for most people. It's going to do about the same job for the use case for which this could be functional, but it is also a more efficient way to pump for a lot of people than what this is going to be. So all in all, not terrible. I can see why it's circulating on TikTok instead of mainstream pump companies because this is not going to fly with a mainstream pump company. DMEs are not going to pick this up and they're not going to carry it because this is just not a practical pump. This is going to sell to people who are seeing like, okay, this is going to be really comfortable. It's talking about it feels like a baby. It doesn't actually feel like a baby. It just has a soft silicone flange. But I am hopeful that we're going to see, given that this is Horizon, that we're going to see that come to other pumps because now we know they can do that collapsing 3D action that they have with the Pumpables liquid flanges, but they can do it without having that one-piece setup because that one-piece setup does increase the expense because you have to replace the whole silicone insert, which means your duckbills, instead of being about 4 sets for $12 to $15, are about 1 set for $12 to $15, depending on which company you get it from. So it does get a little pricey, but I do love the Pumpables liquid technology. So has potential. I would really love to see this flange used in a slightly different way because this unique setup, this is going to be a lot. Unless you are just pumping one side briefly to alleviate pressure, I think your hand's going to get tired, your hand's going to cramp. It's going to be worse than just using a hand pump would have been. So not sure how practical it is, but super excited to see this technology. I'm really hoping we're going to see it elsewhere. So hopefully that helps and happy pumping.